Game 2, and here to set up the Baltimore defense and take you into the opening 4.5 innings of play-by-play, Bill O'Donnell.
Thank you, Kurt, and hello again, everybody. It'll be Boog Powell playing at first base this afternoon for the Orioles. And at second base, chatting with the second base umpire, that is Dave Johnson. At shortstop, man with a very good glove, like Harrelson of the Mets, this is Mark Belanger. And the man with a vacuum glove at third base, Brooks Robinson, who had the play of the ball game defensively yesterday. Out in left field, this is Don Buford. In center field, the man of whom Joe DiMaggio spoke so glowingly a couple of moments ago, Paul Blair. The right fielder is Frank Robinson. The catcher, who was not behind the plate yesterday, this is Andy Etchebarren. And the second game, Baltimore starter, young man from Billings, Montana. This is Dave McNally. He makes his year-round home right now in Baltimore. McNally, whom Kurt commented about during his pregame conversation, won 15 ball games in a row before he suffered his first setback. Actually, he strung a streak of 17 victories in a row, going back to his last 2 wins in 1968. And then McNally got beat by the Minnesota Twins to break that streak. This is Tommy Agee now to lead off for the Mets. The Orioles lead 1 victory to none. These two clubs will go to New York after this ball game. Tomorrow is considered the travel day, with Game 3 on Tuesday. Now, it's Game 2, and McNally, first pitch of the afternoon. A curve and a strike. In McNally's last appearance, that was in an American League Championship Series game, Game 2 against the Twins, his fastball was actually even more effective than the breaking ball. 1 strike. Here's the fastball, 1-1. On deck, this is Bud Harrelson. Agee went after the outside fastball, a ball and 2 strikes. Agee extremely aggressive, and he'll go for that outside pitch. Unusual for a leadoff batter like Agee to have as many RBIs as he had this year. He drove over 76 runs, batting from the top spot. 1-2. Foul tip past the throwing hand of Etchebarren. The catcher at whom you're looking caught all 4 games the last time the Orioles were in a World Series, back in 1966. And he caught McNally in that series in games 1 and 4. One and 2 again to Agee. Still alive on the foul, right back in front of our NBC booth. McNally will, as you see him finger that ball, he'll place the ball right in the glove. And he'll get the ball in the glove exactly as he wants to grip it. 1 and 2. No play on the foul ball, drifting back of the Mets dugout.
I think the tip on McNally, Bill, that the fans should watch for, when he gets his curve over, that's when he's really tough. And when he ran into a slump in September, the Orioles said he went into the slump because he wasn't getting his curve where he wanted to.
1-2. And no play on that hot shot foul outside the Oriole dugout. During the season, the Mets manager, Gil Hodges, pointed out, especially late in the season, quite a few of his ball players who made the outstanding contribution, and Agee was included in that list. Out number 1, McNally hangs up his first strikeout. The umpires working today, Frank Secori of the National League at the plate. First base umpire from the American League, Larry North. Jag Crawford from the National League at second. The third base umpire, by the way, working his first World Series, Lou DeMuro of the American League. The foul line umpires, Lee Wire from the National League and Hank Storr from the American League. Strike 1 to the fouling, Bud Harrelson.
Where that Albert slipped in. I've never, real name, but I've never heard him called Albert.
Harrelson went 1 for 3 in yesterday's opening game to the series, and those are his stats for the season. He sprays the ball, moves the ball around the outfield and the infield quite a bit. McNally will have to hurry his throw because Harrelson has speed. Just got to it. Harrelson was out by an eyelash at first base. McNally charged off the mound about 2 steps to the grass and towards the third base foul side. The Met coaches at the top of the screen. The third base boss is Eddie Yost, and there is the likable Yogi Berra, the boss of first base. There are 2 gone now on the top of the first inning. And here is Cleon Jones. Jones went 1 for 4 yesterday against Cuellar.
Number 21, Cleon Jones.
Jones, who finished third among the National League hitters during 1969, following Pete Rose and Roberto Clemente. Jones batted .340. 2 gone. We're just in the top of the first inning and just underway. Right one. On deck. This is called John Clendenin, the New York first baseman. You'll notice that McNally will not whip the arms in his windup over the head. He feels he has short arms, and he'd rather wind to the side of his head rather than back on top. The fastball fouled away. Powell giving it a chase, but it will drift in the seat. Jones led the Mets in many departments. McNally led the Orioles in a few pitching departments, including games started. He actually started more ball games than Cuellar did during 1969. McNally ahead, 2 strikes. No play again on the foul ball upstairs. You see that spot at which we're looking right now, and we just moved away from it. During a ball game this year when Sam McDowell was in here to pitch against the Indians, as some ball players do understandably, he got mad at an umpire's call, and he threw the ball 2 rows from the top of the upper deck. 1 ball, 2 strikes, Jones. That's how some school students here in Baltimore feel about their birds. They represent a school called Towson State College. 1-2. Powell has a chance over by the box seat. And that retires the side, 1-2-3. And so at the middle of the first inning, the score is the Mets nothing with the Orioles coming to bat.
Hi. I'd like this in my personal checking account and this in my savings.
If everyone who banks at the Commerce had the same kind of account, it'd make life a lot easier for us. But it wouldn't do much for you. So we've got 3 kinds of accounts.
Hello, Miss Hall. I'd like this in my personal checking account and this in my savings.
For writing checks, you need a Commerce personal checking account. You get a statement every month along with your canceled check.
This is for my savings account, and this is my personal check.
For saving money, you need a Commerce savings account. It guarantees you the highest savings account interest available at chartered banks in Canada.
For me, please. I've been writing a lot of checks.
For saving money and writing a few checks, you need a Commerce checking savings account. Commerce has 3 convenient types of accounts. Most people need 2, one for checking and one for saving.
Can you help me? I'd like to open an account.
If you don't know which combination you need, just ask. Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, one of the world's great banks.
Here's the way the Mets now will set up defensively behind left-hander Jerry Koosman. Don Clendenin, the New York first baseman. At second base, the clever fielding Al White. And a young man with a lot of range at shortstop to the holder back at second. This is Bud Harrelson, the shortstop. Third baseman for Gil Hodges is Ed Charles. Out in left field is Cleon Jones. And a man with a lot of range both in and back is Tommy Agee in center. And the right fielder, a Baltimore-bred youngster, by the way, Ron Svoboda. As he did yesterday, Jerry Grody will catch game 2 for the Mets. And appearing for the first time in a World Series, the young left-hander is Jerry Koosman. Koosman goes 6'2", 205 pounds. And this is how Koosman fared during the Mets' pennant-winning 1969 season. He won 17 overall, and he lost 9. Kuzman, like McNally, leans on fastballs and good breaking stuff for his outfit. And the figuring before game time is that Kuzman perhaps has the better fastball than McNally, that perhaps McNally has the better breaking pitch than Kuzman.
Kuzman's having trouble getting that mound to his liking. He's been scraping on it and digging and pounding out there. Every pitcher has his own feeling of the pitching rubber and how comfortable he is on his step-off.
All right, Kurt, here is John Buford, who led off yesterday's ball game on the second pitch with a home run. He bats from either side. Strike one. Of course, he swung left-handed yesterday to get that first inning home run, and he drove over two of the Orioles' 4 runs yesterday. The breaking ball, it's a ball and a strike. Kuzman, for the most part, with his pitches, will come from right on top. Against some left-handers, he'll go from the first base side. The let up, and it had the place but a little bit high. 2 balls and 1 strike. Kuzman missed quite a bit of the early part of the season, but yet wound up making 32 starts nonetheless. 2-1. 2 balls and 2 strikes. On deck, this is Paul Blair. Kuzman had quite a record down in the minors a couple of years ago before being called back up for good by the big club. 2-2. Got him on the fastball right into his hand. So Kuzman, as well as McNally, both picked up strikeouts against leadoff batters. And these are Mets fans and their biggest fans. Their owner, Mrs. Joan Payson. Paul Blair hitless in 3 trips yesterday and 285 for the year. Like Frank Robinson, Blair will crowd the plate quite a bit. Yesterday, Met pitchers served Blair more breaking stuff than good live fastballs. The changeup, Jones with plenty of room out in left field, and more room than even he needed. An easy play for the Mets and for Cleon Jones out in left and a quick second out. 2 up and 2 away in the bottom of the first inning. The Oriole coach at the top of the screen is Billy Hunter. The coach is third. And the first base coach is George Shawley. This is part now of the Oriole power cast. Frank Robinson, who ripped off 32 home runs, but was held hitless yesterday. Ball 1. As a matter of fact, he was fanned twice yesterday. The Met pitching did a fine job against Blair, both Robinson and Powell, limiting that foursome to only 1 base hit. 1-0. Deep right center field. Very deep, Adrian Swoboda. And Swoboda right in front of the 390-foot marker. That ball right to the marker. And so at the end of the first inning, the score is Baltimore nothing and New York nothing.
Swoboda made a fine play. Just before Frank Robinson came to bat, this breeze sprung up and is blowing in from right center toward home plate. Held that ball up just a bit. Swoboda got a good jump on it over there in front of the right center field area. Keep it from going out.
Well, friends, this game is authorized under television rights granted by Major League Baseball solely for the entertainment of our audience, and any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Commissioner of Baseball is prohibited. Don Clendenin starts the top of the second inning. Strike 1 to Clendenin, who had a pair of base hits yesterday, including a double in the left center field power alley with Ron Swoboda coming on next. After the fastball, and not too much room for Powell with it back in the seat. Clendenin, for his size, gets down in a pretty deep crouch, and then when that ball comes forward, he tries to just strike and streak right for it. One and 2. Clendenin, the only man this year on a visiting club to hit 2 home runs at Dodger Stadium against L.A. pitching. 1-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Didn't get the fastball through. McNally made 40 starts during the regular season. He completed 11 of them. He had 4 shutouts, including a 1-hitter against Minnesota. The curve misses. 3 balls and 2 strikes. The American League leader in starts was Denny McClain of the Tigers. He made 41 starts. So 2 men on the spot. Clendenin leading off the top of the second. He loses him. Walk number 1 in the ball game. And Clendenin, the leadoff batter now, becomes, from the Mets standpoint, the go-ahead run at first base. Well, the Orioles have been in 5 World Series games, 4 in 1966, 1 yesterday. They've never lost a series ball game. Here is Ron Swoboda. Swoboda yesterday against Cuellar was 1 for 3. He had a base hit his last time up. Powell holds. Clendenin is leading. Didn't get the fastball into his letters. He jammed it to the inside corner. Now, McNally has 2 kind of good breaking pitches, hard slider and a pretty good curve. He did not actually use the slider until last season. He came up with the slider as a new pitch a year ago. One ball, 1 strike. That's Frank Sikori of the National League doing the ball strike calling back of Etchebarren. Swoboda, who helped the Mets and made a great contribution during their pennant drive in August and September, drove over a lot of runs. 1-1. Should be playable by Powell. He's got a high sky in front of him also. And Powell with the glasses down against the high sky for the putout. The second game of the World Series today is being brought to you in living color on the World Series Network, and that's NBC. 1 gone in the Mets' second inning, and here's third baseman Ed Charles.
Playing third base, number 5, Ed Charles.
Charles was hitless yesterday in Game 1. A strike. The breaking stuff kind of fooled Charles as he yanked his head away. Frank Sikori, who just went out to check home plate, and now we're looking at the on-deck batter, Jerry Grody. Sikori has played in a World Series. That was back in 1945 for the Cubs. 1 strike. Here's another one. McNally has been working tight to Charles. He gave him a low breaking pitch right into his knee. Now, this is not it's not a muggy day, but it is a warm day. And the warmth already showing in the perspiration of McNally. Johnson will get the 4th play, and there'll be no play to first base. Actually, Clendenin had to hold up. Clendenin could not move with conviction towards second base because Clendenin was not sure whether Johnson could actually get to the line drive before it hit the dirt.
Johnson had a similar play yesterday in the 8th inning. Harrelson hit him a ball just like that. That low line drive, getting 1 hopper. A tough chance.
Charles is now the base runner with 2 away in the top of the second inning. And here's one of the scrappy ball players on this Mets 1969 National Championship club, Jerry Grody, the catcher. Ball 1, Jerry. Jerry had a base hit yesterday, as the Mets got 6 hits off Cuellar, and the Orioles also had 6 off Mets hits. One-0 to Grody. Fastball right down the middle. It cut the plate and fell high. McNally, probably more than any other Oriole pitcher, spends very little time concentrating on the runner. Normally, all he'll do is give him a quick look. McNally's main concern, he will tell you, is to concentrate to the plate. He has a notion, and the strike was called by Sikora. 1-2. When McNally this year has had his biggest problem has been early in ball games when he's had serious control difficulties. More often than not, McNally has been strong late and weak early. On the way to second is Charles, and pulled down by Johnson. Etchebarren had some trouble. Etchebarren had some trouble on the loose ball, and I think Weaver is complaining to Sikora that Etchebarren was impeded and blocked by Grody. I think Weaver is complaining that Grody got in the way of Etchebarren.
I wonder if he's going to show us that little smile. Bill, there he goes back to the dugout. He has sort of an angelic smile he gives the umpires, and it's become irritating around the league. Well, it's just his manner. He's a rookie World Series manager, has done a great job with these Orioles. Never played in the major league.
The wild pitch charged to McNally on the advance by Charles to second base. So for the first time early in the ball game, one club has the runner in scoring position. The count to Grody, 2 balls, 2 strikes, with 2 outs. Had a notion again, but then Grody just checked the swing in time on that breaking pitch into his hand. Grody batted .252, but in many clutch situations, as this is Charles with his lead at second base, in many clutch situations for the Mets, during their pennant express drive, Grody delivered key base wallop. Pay pitch, 3-2 coming. And that bounced off the foot of Grody, and so that'll be a foul ball, and Grody will have to walk it off. There's no way that a sting like that on top of the foot wears off quickly. You just have to let the pain subside and just think about it and just chew down on the lip. But Grody being a catcher, and that probably is the one part of a ball club where you have to have your most scrappy type of ball player. A guy like Grody recovers quickly. Still 3-2, and that's Charles off second. Still alive. Right back to the screen on the foul ball. We have left-handers like McNally as starters today against Koosman. It will be right-handers due to start Tuesday at Shea Stadium in New York. Palmer for Baltimore, Gentry for the New York Mets. Money pitch again. Belanger or Blair should get to it, and they're going to give it Blair coming in and facing it. Blair for the putout from shallow center field. And so at the middle of the second inning. The score is New York 0, Baltimore 0.
Hey! Don't tell me. Don't tell Sebring. Sebring, I saw you race.
Beg pardon?
Fine, I recognize the car. Hot new job from Dad.
Gordon.
Thank you. $2 worth, please. Hey, fellas, Mr. Giacometti, a racing fan. Oh, yeah. So this is the new Swinger 340. Nice. Valley suspension, huh? Right. Look at that performance to it. Must be something pretty hot under there, eh, Mr. G? 340 V8 with a 4-barrel carb.
Look, fellas, I gotta pick up my girl.
More than one, Mr. G?
Bet they really go for this, baby.
Dual chrome exhaust.
Yeah, and front disc brakes. Hey, that's a new 3-speed stick shift? Yeah. Boom. Boom.
1970 Dart Swinger 340. If you don't mind wearing the look of a winner, you could be Dodge material.
Well, arrivederci.
Tony Kubek is ready downstairs with an interesting guest. Tony, whom do you have?
Thank you. I've got Mrs. Babe Ruth down here. Mrs. Ruth, it was quite a thrill for you this year, I think, during the summer to receive those awards for the Babe, wasn't it?
Well, it was the greatest honor ever bestowed upon Babe. And really and truly, I was speechless. I was so happy, and he could only have been here to receive them, but it was just great, Tony.
Mrs. Ruth, you know the Babe, I guess, having spent his boyhood in Baltimore, had a real warm spot for this town, doesn't he?
Yes, he always considered Baltimore his own, although he played most of his career in New York City. Baltimore was always nearest to his heart.
Mrs. Babe Ruth, thank you so much. Nice to see you out at the ballpark.
Okay, Tony. Look, I'll see you again.
Thank you very much. Now let's go on back upstairs.
Thank you, Tony Kubek and the lovely Mrs. Babe Ruth. In the bottom of the second inning, the ball game is scoreless. And here's the man they consider the Babe in Baltimore, Powell with a big bat. That let-up curve. Kuzman trying to keep Powell off balance. Powell does have a tendency to lunge a bit. Pull the breaking stuff right into the seats, and that's fairly deep down the right field side. Kuzman way ahead of Powell at 0-2. We commented about Blair, Frank Robinson, Powell, and Brooks Robinson being held by Seaver and Company to only one hit yesterday. This is Brooks Robinson on deck. Powell was the one who had the base hit. He tried to go crossfire from the first base side, Kurt.
I was talking to Powell today and asked him how he hit left-handers, and he said he had a seasonal average of .303 against left-handers this year. He's very proud of that.
1-2 delivery. He went with that hard stuff again from the first base side. Second year that this gentleman played organized baseball with the club of the New York Penn League, Auburn. He had an earner average of under a run and a half a game, and he fanned Powell on let-up breaking stuff for his second strikeout. 2 strikeouts hung up by Kuzman. With Brooks Robinson now coming to the plate, we'd like to remind you that tomorrow night, Bob Hope plays host to Mr. Jimmy Durante, Tom Jones, Barbara McNair, and Donald O'Connor as Chrysler presents the Bob Hope Special. That's tomorrow night at 9, 8 o'clock Central Time, right here on NBC. Brooks Robinson, who made the play of the ball game defensively yesterday on pinch hitter Rod Gaspar's capper on the grass. Ball 1 to Brooks. Dave Johnson will be batting next. One-0. 2 balls, no strikes. The outfield right now is playing Brooks almost as deep in right as it's playing Brooks in left. Agee is giving it the long run, plus Harrelson retreating. It is Harrelson, the shortstop, back in shallow center field. Kuzman has faced 5, has retired 5 in a row. And now here is Dave Johnson. Kurt, before the ball game today, chatting with Johnson in the clubhouse, we asked him if he was more relaxed going into the 69 series than he was going into the 66. And surprisingly enough, he said, I'm actually more nervous in this one than I was in my first one.
That's the old saying, a little knowledge is better.
1 strike to Johnson now with 2 gone. Andy Echeverry is on deck. And the Oriole bat boy right beside him, James Owen. Soft curve for a ball and a strike.
Kuzman looks good, Bill. He's got that hard fastball, but that curve he's using for a changeup has been very effective.
One thing about him, Kurt, he doesn't waste any time. Give me the ball, let me throw it. 2 balls and 1 strike.
He explains that. He says, what else is there to do between pitches?
2 gone, bottom of the second inning. No score. Foul about 5 to 10 feet off that left field foul side. Down the left field line, you will notice, as you look back to that 14-foot-high fence, there's actually only 1 short stride between the foul line right there and that restraining fence. So anything hit down that line is very difficult to play. Kuzman 3-2 with Dave Johnson. Still 3-2. At the moment, and we're very early in the ball game, at the moment, Kuzman seems far more in control of his pitches than Seaver did at the same point of the ball game yesterday. Kuzman had retired 5 in a row, and he, like McNally, now have both given up a walk. McNally passed the leadoff batter in the top of the second inning, Charles, and now Kuzman free tickets Johnson with 2 out in the bottom of the second inning.
Batting 7, Kathy for Baltimore. Number 8,
Echevarren, whom Kurt told you, like Powell, batted very good against left-handers. Echevarren and Hendricks were platooned all season long back of the plate. Agee got a tough play, but he made a good run for it, galloping to deep center field. Agee played it perfectly, timed it perfectly. And so at the end of the second inning, the score is New York nothing, Baltimore nothing.
One morning, Wally Buckley discovered he had a case of the nubs.
The nubs.
The nubs. The tiny little part of his beard his razor couldn't get.
They're all over my face.
Fortunately, the Gillette Techmatic razor gets rid of the nubs. Techmatic adjusts to shave you closer. Techmatic gave Wally the closest shave he ever had. No nicks, no cuts, no nubs.
Boy, that was close.
Techmatic by Gillette. It gets the nubs.
The groovy moving tempo, the marker that writes like a pen. What a smooth-to-move creation. Watch it go, that tempo. You're writing just an easy groove with its tip of nylon, soft and smooth. Get the marker that writes like a pen. Get a tempo, a tempo, a tempo.
Well, some 50,000 here at Memorial Stadium today, and among them are Tony Kubek and the chairman of the board of the Baltimore Baseball Club, Jerry Hoffberger. Tony?
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Hoffberger, your ball club had some kind of year.
Yeah, sure did have some kind of year. We're just pleased to be here and hope we can get through a few more ball games and win at least 4. Then we really have some kind of year.
I guess you're taking your crew up to New York to see the series up
I'm
there.
taking everybody who wants to go.
Hoffberger, thank you so much. Congratulations once again. Let's go back upstairs.
All right, thank you, Tony. And Mr. Jerry Hoffberger, Al Weiss has looked at strike one. He'll be followed by Kuzman and Agee here in the top of the third. McNally and Kuzman hooked up in a scoreless pitching duel. Fastball. He kept it outside to Weiss and hit the corner with it. Kuzman with a windbreaker is on deck. 2 strikes to Weiss. One and 2. Weiss drove in the only net run yesterday with a sacrifice fly to left field. Weiss has not played in this park since he was involved in the 1967 collision at second base with Frank Robinson. Well, about 20,000 umpires were in behind Frank Secori. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The fastball, he got it for a base hit right down the pipe and felt high. Weiss got his kind of pitch and has drilled it for a base knock. That is the ball game's first base hit. So in the third, like the second, the Mets have the leadoff batter aboard. Charles drew a walk but was left. Actually, he was not left stranded, but eventually Charles was left stranded. Here's Jerry Kuzman. He throws left, but that's from the other side. He had 4 base hits with the bat during the regular season. Weiss at first, nobody out. Robinson creeping up from third. Strike 1 to Kuzman. Kuzman taking a glance to Eddie Yost to find out whether the sacrifice bunt sign has still been flagged. Brooks still creeping up, getting all he can. It looked like Kuzman wanted to bunt the ball towards first baseman Boog Powell. Now, some fellows are instructed, pitchers included. Some are instructed by managers or coaches. Try to bunt to certain fellows and keep bunts away from other fielders. And it looked like Kuzman was trying to lay it down towards Powell rather than Robinson. Over there on the left side of your picture, Robinson still staying tight to the grass and keeps on moving in. They expect the bunt. And it was foul tipped off the throwing hand of Andy Etchebarren. Or no, it was missed off Etchebarren, but with a runner occupying first base, the ball obviously then was not touched. Or if it was touched on the second strike and it was fouled off, that's the reason Kuzman has gone back to the dugout. That's the Oriole trainer, Ralph Salvon, with manager Earl Weaver, finding out just how much the foul tip on the second strike bothered Etchebarren.
Here it is. You ever see a catcher, the old catcher's hands? That's ticked off the bat.
Number 20.
Well, they take a beating behind that plate for that bare hand.
One away now as Kuzman tried to bunt on the second strike, fouled it off, and that will be a McNally strikeout. That will be his second strikeout. One away, top of the order, and here is Agee. Tommy Agee struck out in the first inning. Strike one. Agee is 0 for 5 in the series, and this is Harrelson on deck. A breaking ball, and McNally just let up a bit on that breaking shot.
Bill, in 9 of the first 10 batters that McNally's faced, he's had one strike on him. He's had that first pitch in there for a strike.
Powell holding and Weiss leading. Tough chance for two, and they just managed to get one because of the good range of Belanger. Belanger had to go deep to the hole.
Watch Belanger's range on this. He's a brilliant fielding shortstop. He's a great basketball star at Pittsfield, Massachusetts High School. Look at his agility. Gets that throw away with something on it, right on target.
Number 3.
Belanger can range right, left, and he and Brooks Robinson really make it hard to drive the ball through that left side of the infield.
Two away now in the Mets' third inning. The runner at first base is Agee, who just rounded into that fourth play, with Belanger starting the great throw from the hold on the left side. This is Bud Harrelson, the shortstop. Ball one. Harrelson, neither big nor strong nor heavy. He doesn't go more than 150 pounds. That's one of the few times that McNally, during a ball game, goes to first base, as we mentioned. He's made his first move in the ball game to first base. Now, Agee likes to run. He's aggressive with the bat, and he's also aggressive on the bases. Two and 0 to Harrelson. Harrelson picked up quite a few base hits this year, using the bat to bunt, and also likes to drag bunt. Fastball was too tight, 3 and 0. McNally right now is having his very first struggle situation of the ball game. And Etchebarren going out for one of two purposes, telling McNally that perhaps he's releasing the ball at the wrong spot, or telling him maybe that he'd like to throw Harrelson a different way. Harrelson, by the way, when he was in high school, was actually a third baseman. And when he got in the minors, he was changed over to a shortstop. 3 and 0. 4 pitches, and he loses him. McNally has now given up 2 walks. The biggest threat in the ball game by either side now being provided here in the top of the third. Harrelson at first, A.G. at second base. 2 out, and the batter is the man with the hot bat on his Met ball club, Cleon Jones.
Number 21, Cleon Jones.
Jones fouled out to first baseman Powell in the first inning. In the history of the New York Mets, nobody has ever carried a higher batting average than this young man. The highest average before Jones's 340 this year was held by Richie Ashburn, and that was in the Mets' very first season, 1962. 2 on, 2 gone. McNally struggling now with both the fastball and also that slider he threw too low and tight. That's A.G. at second base. Plus Harrelson at first base. With a good lead, he's not being held by Powell. Top of the third, no score. 1-0 to Jones. 2-0. McNally now has failed to find the plate in 6 straight pitches. After McNally picked up those 15 straight wins this season, on which Kurt commented, he had struggle situations with his control during the month of August. 2 balls and 1 strike. He kept the fastball a little bit outside on the corner to Jones. A.G. at second, and there's Harrelson, the runner at first. Jones, 2 balls and 1 strike. Three and 1. McNally now is really treading on thin ice here in the top of the third. At the moment, there is no activity in the Oriole bullpen, but there's some stirring going on out there. This fellow's moving around. Now, the Orioles have long relievers like Dave Leonard. 3 and 1. 3 and 2. Normally, long relievers are Leonard and Harden. And let's see, this is Harden, Jim Harden. And that's the bullpen coach right beside Harden. Watching him warm up, that was Charlie Lau. This is McNally. Knows he's in a tough spot. Knows he's got to concentrate. Knows he can't give Jones too good a pitch on 3 and 2. Jones has power and a good clutch swinger. Jones can hit the ball up the middle and also to the power pocket. Runners go. Deep left field. Buford giving it a chase. And Buford almost lost that deep fly ball. He looked like he might have almost overrun the ball.
That ball was really ripped to left field. Don Buford converted into an outfielder from an infielder. He's short. He has to go up for this one. Another foot or two, and the Mets might have had 2 runs in.
And so, at the middle of the third inning, the score is New York nothing, Baltimore nothing. Well, we've only had 1 base hit in the ball game thus far as we go to the bottom of the third, and that was by Al White to start the top of the third. Beginning the bottom third, here is Mark Belanger, the 8th batter, and the Orioles shortstop. Right center field with A.G. And A.G. with a good speed, backed up 1 step in front of the warning track. Now, unlike yesterday, with the exception of Buford's first inning home run, we've had a lot of long, hot shots in this ballpark within 3 innings. Dave McNally, who, like Koosman, although he throws left, bats right. And who, like all pitchers, loves to brag once in a while about a home run, such as he hit this season. Ball 1 to McNally. On deck is the leadoff batter, Don Buford. 1 ball and 1 strike. Koosman's fastball moving quite a bit. Actually, some people feel that Koosman's fastball moves even more than Seaver's does. He let up on the breaking ball. 2 balls and 1 strike. McNally never played high school baseball, but did play on the fine program out in Billings, Montana, provided by the American Legion. 2-2 to McNally. Koosman has been moving the ball around, especially working the inside corner to McNally and everything down to his knees. Koosman hangs up his 3rd strikeout and his 2nd out in the bottom of the 3rd. In the first 9 batters, the Orioles have had only 1 base runner. That was Johnson with a 2-out walk last inning. Here's Buford, one of the hitting heroes yesterday, and provided them with great strength as a leadoff batter all season long. 2 out, no score. Oh, what a magnificent play by Harrelson. Magnificent.
Well, we've seen 2 brilliant plays by these shortstops, Belanger, and now Harrelson comes up with one. Watch his dive for this one. A sensational stab here by Harrelson. Caught that ball about 6 inches off the ground, held on to it, even though his impact could have jarred it loose.
And so at the end of the 3rd inning, the score is New York 0, Baltimore 0.
There's a story to be told for every mile of iron road and for every man who moves those boxcars through. They put the trains together and they move them down the line, and they like the satisfying work they do. They work hard and they work long, but they always carry on till the last load and the last car is bound home. And when they relax with an ale that's bolder than the rest. Yes, O'Keefe is the hearty ale these men enjoy. O'Keefe ale satisfies best. O'Keefe ale, the right ale for right now.
In the top of the 4th inning, it will be Don Clendenin, followed by Ron Swoboda and Ed Charles. Clendenin, a lot would go after the first pitch, but had no chance to go after that one. Clendenin is known as the first ball swinger. Clendenin walked in the 2nd inning. One ball and 1 strike. One after the fastball. Frank Robinson's got a tough play to the fence in right field, and the Mets have gone ahead 1-0. That's almost in the same spot where Buford hit his home run yesterday for the Orioles. Clendenin with opposite field power just cleared the fence in right field in front of the auxiliary scoreboard.
Clendenin has really been hitting in this series, yesterday and today. He's now been on base twice today. He had 2 hits yesterday. Look at that follow-through.
McNally serving ball one to Ron Svoboda. Kuzman has held the Orioles hitless. The Mets have picked up 2 hits off McNally, including that blast by Clendenin. Off his feet right in the batter's box in a foul ball. McNally has just had a personal 14-inning scoreless streak snapped. And snapped indeed by Clendenin. And incidentally, Dave McNally also had 12 scoreless innings during World Series competition snaps. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Svoboda. On deck is Ed Charles. 1-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. When Svoboda was a Met rookie in 1965, he had 19 home runs, more than any other rookie in the history of the amazing Mets. Just trying to relax as he's swinging the shoulders around. 2-2. Still riding 2-2.
So far in this game, Bill, the Mets have hit harder shots off McNally than the Orioles have off Kuzman. They've hit the ball hard 3 or 4 times right at somebody for outs, but they've stung the ball.
2-2 again. McNally has his 3rd strikeout and his first out in the top of the 4th inning. Well, Tony getting ready to talk to the very attractive Mitzi Gaynor, and I'm sure Tony's looking forward to that.
Ed Charles.
Ed Charles is the batter. Remember now, immediately following this game, stay tuned for American Football League action, where you will see the New York Jets at Cincinnati, Houston at Kansas City, and Oakland at Denver. Pretty tight to Charles for ball 1. The fastball. Belanger's got to make a hurried throw, and he got him by 1 stride. That was a chopper, and Belanger had no trouble bringing it down, but realizing that Charles has pretty hot feet and speed down the first base side, had a hurried throw. Jerry Grody's been up once today, fly to center field. The Mets are leading 1-0, batting in the top of the 4th on Clendenin's leadoff opposite field home run. The curve for a strike. McNally, a 22-game winner last year, a 20-game winner this year. Okay to Etchebarren. 1 ball, 1 strike. Gil Hodges in the Mets dugout along with Rube Walker, his pitching coach. Well, that Bird enjoying the World Series, and he's the only one to come in this ballpark without a ticket today. 1-1. Robinson, off again, and made it.
Well, it's an odd thing. Brooks Robinson says this is not the hardest play for him. Usually it is for a third baseman. The secret, he says, is to pick the ball up as his left foot. Now watch him and throw off the right foot. There he is, picking it up on the left foot as it strikes, and then throwing as he lifts his right foot up. And he throws overhand. He says his toughest play is backhanding across the body to the line.
And so in the middle of the 4th inning, it's New York 1, Baltimore 0.
This man is going places, and wherever he goes, he takes along the pleasures of reclining seats, air conditioning, and stereo tape music. Most of all, he's accustomed to power and knows how to use it. There's a cause for such a man. The 1970 Sport Fury GT. Plymouth native.
GT7, lead ramp 25 and hold. GT, hold for 707 on runway 3. Runway 3 clear for Plymouth GT7.
a plane car doesn't make it, going first class makes it. Plymouth makes it. Plymouth makes it.
So for a 1-0 game, we've had 4 brilliant plays here and a lot of action.
We've had one by Harrelson, one by Brooks Robinson, one by Belanger. This is Paul Blair in the bottom of the 4th inning. Yanks the head out on that low breaking shot from Kuzma. He got the fastball through to the belt, and he kept it right on the inside corner. So Kuzman has gone soft curve and also gone with heat to the inside corner. And he's way in front of Blair at 2 strikes. Frank Robinson is on deck. This should be played by Harrelson or Weiss. It is Weiss waving off A.G. Let's pause briefly for station identification. This is
Number 20, Frank Robinson.
Frank Robinson now, the Baltimore batter, in the bottom of the 4th inning. He slides deep to right center to the 390-foot marker in the 1st inning. But Svoboda ranged far and deep to pull down the deep fly ball. Robinson is hitless in the series. The Mets pitchers have handled him 5 times. Ball 1. One away in the bottom of the 4th. Tough play for Harrelson, but he had the good range. Right back at second base. Another good range defensive play by Harrelson. 2 away in the bottom of the 4th inning. Harrelson, before that ground ball off Robinson's bat, had shaded the hole a bit. He was not blocking the hole, but was shading it. Powell fanned against Kuzman in the 2nd inning. Now, twice when Powell was up in the 2nd inning, and let's see if Kuzman does it again. Kuzman came with good hard stuff from the first base side. Crossfire fastball. He came from the 3/4 side that time, ball 1. Brooks Robinson on deck with 2 outs. Mets are leading 1-0. Orioles batting in the bottom of the 4th. Al Weiss on a hot shot, 1 hopper to retire the side at the end of 4 innings of play. It's New York 1, Baltimore 0.
This man seeks inner happiness by suffering. He has given up food, clothing, shelter. But one thing he cannot give up, the Gillette spoiler with the miracle plastic coating that reduces pull. Each day he struggles to deny his face this pleasure and fails. He is in the most tragic sense spoiled. No blade feels like the Gillette spoiler, except the Gillette injector spoiler.
Who are you?
Oh, how you doing, Guy? I'm your neighbor. Oh, didn't I tell you we share the same medicine cabinet? It's a new modern apartment. Hey, I see you got silver right guard. New antiperspirant. Yes, sir. Stop soda keeps you dry.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I know all about that. I got the regular right guard. Yep, 1 shot and I'm good for the whole day.
2 kinds of people, 2 kinds of right guard.
Mona! Thank you, Bill. I've got Mitzi Gaynor down here. Mitzi, how are you enjoying the ball game?
It's marvelous. Of course, the World Series is about the most exciting event of all sports of the year.
You know, you're going to have a chance tomorrow to show some people all over the country a special. Mitzi Gaynor special. Is it a good show?
Oh, well, we think it's a good show.
You're being too modest.
Knocking on wood right now. I hope everybody enjoys it. It's on.
Who's going to be on the show with you?
Ross Martin is on the show with me, and he's one of the co-stars of the Wild Wild West show, and he's a brilliant man. I couldn't be more excited about him, and he does a wonderful, wonderful job in the show.
Mitzi Gaynor, what time is this going to be? And it's tomorrow night, isn't it?
It's tomorrow night, yes. It's October the 13th, and it's on 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and 9 o'clock Central Time.
Mitzi Gaynor, thank you so much. You've added a lot to the ball game, especially for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. 2 strikes.
Let's go on back upstairs.
2 strikes to Al Weiss, and it stays there on the riding foul ball back to the screen. Weiss had a base hit to begin the top of the third. A looking third strike, and McNally has now hung up 4 strikeouts. McNally, during the regular season, in more than 230 innings of work, fanned 166 American League batters. And the applause from, naturally, a partisan Baltimore crowd, but a very good round of applause, is for this strong New York Mets pitcher, Jerry Koosman. Koosman has faced 13 men and retired 12 of the 13. Koosman fanned in the third. Got a piece of the McNally fastball. The Mets are leading 1-0 on the strength of the powerful home run wallop by Clendenin. One strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. It looked like Koosman had an early notion and then figured out that breaking stuff was too low and inside. 1-1 to Koosman. We've had this ball game featured by Clendenin's owner and some outstanding defensive plays, both sides. 1-1. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Koosman, when he was pitching against McNally, kept his stuff low and tight, and McNally working over his opposing pitcher the same way. 2 strikeouts in the inning, 5 strikeouts for McNally, the second time that he's fanned Koosman. Now McNally will go against the top of the Mets order, Tommy Agee.
Number 20.
Agee was robbed, perhaps, of a base hit back in the third inning when he grounded a hot smash to the hole at short, and Belanger turned it over into a forced play at second base. Agee trying to pick up right now his first base hit in the series. Checked his swing, but not in time. Corey, the National League umpire, claiming that he committed himself and snapped the wrist. One ball and 1 strike. Agee played the most games of any member of the Mets, scored the most runs, belted the most homers, and had the most RBIs. Off his shoes in the batter's box and fell. Agee and Cleon Jones had quite a battle for the RBI leadership. Agee wound up with 76. Jones had 75. Two away. The Mets are leading. They're batting in the top of the 5th inning. McNally, off and on, has had control difficulties, especially during the 3rd inning, but he survived the 3rd inning without a run scored. Fastball is strike 3 looking. He got it right to his letters. McNally fanned the side. And so at the middle of the 5th inning, the score is New York 1, Baltimore nothing.
One goes there. Yeah, and that one fits beside it. And this way? No, that one. This one like that. There. This one must go there. Go. That's British Columbia. Yeah. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And that's Ontario? Yeah, and Quebec fits up here. From Quebec? Yeah. Let me see, I know. Labrador? Like that. There it is. There's this one fits right in. Could have moved that island out a little bit. What's that one? Looks like another Newfoundland, but there can't be two. Oh, maybe it's, Brunswick. This goes here, right? This looks like Prince Edward Island. Nova Scotia sticking out there.
Canada. It's the best piece of real estate in the world. And the new high-interest Canada savings bonds let you own a piece of it. They're on sale now at the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce.
Tony Kubek has another guest downstairs. And Tony, whom do you have?
Thank you, Bill. Down here with me is Sandy Koufax, and I think Sandy was seeing quite a pitching duel.
Sweetheart, Tony, I think they're both capable of that. Mickey and I talked about it on the pregame show. They're both great pitchers. I said Kuzman was going to have to do a better job. He couldn't do an equal job because I felt that Baltimore had a better ball club, and so far he has. You can't fault anything Jerry's done. He's done a great job.
Sandy, early in the ball game, Frank Robinson hit a ball in right field. It looked like it was going to go out, and the wind seemed to hold it up.
Well, I think the wind is blowing in a little bit from right today. And if you hit the ball high, it's going to keep it. It's not going to get out. The ball Clendenin hit was a line drive.
Brooks Robinson grounding out from third to first is Charles to Clendenin. And now let's turn over this NBC microphone to Kurt Gowdy.
Thank you, Bill. Robinson had previously flied to center. Dave Johnson up now. Walked his first time. The only man to reach base for the Orioles has been Dave Johnson. Kuzman has struck out 3, walked 1. 1-0, New York, on Don Clendenin's home run. A ball. That curves over. Been a big pitch for him today. 1 ball, 1 strike. Dave Johnson had leg injuries all year that hampered him. Change up. 1 ball, 2 strikes. On deck, Andy Etchebarren, the catcher. Johnson also has some back trouble. Gary Kuzman delivers 1-2. 2-2 now. Kuzman is from Morse, M-O-R-S-E, Morse, Minnesota, town of about 4,100. And they have a delegation here today. They're supposed to have a big sign somewhere down the right field foul line. The 2-2 delivery. Curve is 3-2. This is the second 3-2 count that Kuzman's had in the game. Both on Dave Johnson. That's how sharp he's been with his control. 1 out, nobody on. The 3-2 pitch. Fly ball, right field. Ron Sloboda puts it away, and they're 2 down. When that ball leaves the bat, these outfielders have been flipping those sunglasses down today. What the ball players call a light sky. There's not a cloud in the sky. And that makes it a tough sky when you're looking up there in that bright sun. Andy Etchebarren. Fly to center his first time. We'll play him over toward right. They're 2 down, nobody on. That slow ball of Kuzman. One ball, no strike. Ball. The Mets got lucky with this boy. He was pitching down in Fort Bliss, Texas. And a young fella down there recommended him to his uncle, who was an usher in Shea Stadium. Told the Mets to look him over. There's a fly ball into the right field corner, deep. That ball is caught by Sloboda. That's twice he's been chased up against fences today. So it's 3 up, 3 down. And at the end of 5 innings here in Baltimore, the score, the New York Mets 1 and Baltimore nothing.
These are the good times, and good times just naturally go together with
Good
Good times just naturally go together with Old Vienna.
We pause now for station identification. This is the CBC Television Network.
Bud Harrelson leading off. Bud Harrelson trying to bunt, pops up to Andy Echeverria. One away for the Mets in the top of the sixth. Harrelson previously had bounced to the pitcher and walked. Leon Jones is fouled out to first and lined out to left field. So in the third inning when there were 2 runners on. The Mets have 2 hits. White singled in the third. Clendenon homered in the fourth. Baltimore's been held hitless and runless so far.
Kurt, World Series crowds are always alive, but I think today's crowd is even more alive than yesterday. We had one of these typical nail-biting type of ball games between McNally and Kuzma.
One out, nobody on. 1-0 to Jones with Clendenon on deck. McNally has struck out 6. There's Clendenon. Now it's 2-0. He has walked 2. Jones is a good breaking ball hitter.